Hello, welcome to another episode of Hope Without Sight with your host, Sailor Cooper. And normally my co-host, Tyler Evans, would be here now, but since this was an on-the-spot, last-minute episode, he's not here. But yeah, I just got finished being on this person's podcast. And she is a person who is in a wheelchair, a lady who is an entrepreneur and just got elected to city council. And this is episode 12. Please welcome Linda Hunt. Linda, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Sailor. Thank you for that introduction. I love your enthusiasm. So as Sailor mentioned, my name is Linda Hunt. I'm an award-winning accessibility consultant, a speaker, an author, and a podcaster. And yes, I just had Sailor on my podcast, which is Accessibility Solutions, Making the World Accessible. But what I wanted to talk to you about on Sailor's podcast is overcoming disability barriers to leadership. So I have been in a power wheelchair for about the last 12 years. So that means I went into a power wheelchair at about the age of 45. And at the time that I went into my wheelchair full-time, I was the executive director of a national health charity here in Canada. My husband and I have owned and operated our own business for 33 years. When I stopped working full-time, which for me meant traveling from my home, which is about 60 miles west of Toronto, Canada, into Toronto every day. So that could be an hour and 10 minutes on a good day, or a 2-hour commute on a busy traffic day in gridlock. So what I did, I said I gave up the commute down the highway for the commute down the hall. So I have continued to work since I stopped commuting to my job as executive director of a national health charity. And my message that I try to get out to most people is that just because you have a disability, you can still play a leadership role in your community, in business, and as Sailor just mentioned, just this past Monday, I was actually elected to city council in my municipality. So I am going to be the first person with a physical disability to sit on city council in this municipality. But I think your podcast, Hope Without Sight, I think what people with disabilities, whether it's a disability that you're born with, or in my case, a disability that you acquire, the biggest thing that I tell people is that everything is a positive attitude, and keeping your belief in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, why would anyone else believe in you?
Exactly.
So I really preach the power of a positive attitude when dealing with your disability. But in terms of overcoming barriers to leadership, this is a talk that I've given. I've given it to universities. I've given it to women's groups. I've given it to actually I wrote a collaborative book, and the talk overcoming barriers to leadership. And so that is really focusing on the fact that just because you're a person with a disability, you have leadership skills, and those leadership skills, you need to exert yourself. You need to really get out there and profess your leadership skills, and don't let your disability be a barrier to
No,
leadership. So Sailor, I love what you're doing with your podcast, and
thank you.
I think it's an important message for people that, yeah, like, don't give up hope.
No,
Don't let your disability define you, and don't let your disability prevent you from taking a leadership role, whether it's at a job, whether it's in your community, maybe it's a volunteer role that you've got. And Sailor has shared with me that he's starting his own business.
yes,
Again,
indeed.
that takes courage, and that takes a leadership. It takes leadership to be able to do those types of things. So really overcoming barriers to leadership is something that I I really have embraced. I've had to embrace over the last 12 years since I started using the power wheelchair. Just prior to using the power wheelchair, I went from walking with one cane to two canes to a walker to a scooter and then a power wheelchair. And that happened in 18 months. So my mantra all along was adapt, adapt, adapt. So if I can't,
Yeah,
yes,
and
we have to be very, very resourceful, right, Sailor? We have to be
right.
very resourceful. We have
And
to be able to adapt.
if you don't mind me asking, like, what caused you to uh, go from walking to being in a wheelchair? Like, what happened?
So I was diagnosed in 1999 with multiple sclerosis.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I could still jog in high heels. I had two small children. My husband had a business. I had a very busy full-time job. And adapt, adapt, adapt really became my mantra. So it wasn't until 2004 that I first started walking with a limp. And
Wow.
that's where we had one cane. And I had a fairly serious exacerbation in the spring of 2006. And so between the spring of 2006 and the fall of 2007, that 18 months, it was one cane, two canes, a walker, a scooter, a power wheelchair. And at the time, it was everything from I was commuting, into the Toronto area. So I mean, I needed to get hand